Before we dive into this video, guys, I'll let you guys know this is a bit of a follow-up to it's a bit of a follow-up to a take that I had last year on the incident in Dearborn, Michigan, where the Muslims were protesting the woke LGBTQ curriculum. There has apparently been a bill, and let's just say this right here. If you are a woke LGBTQ activist, I think the last thing you want to do is piss off the Islamic community. Also, something else too, we're going to be explaining identity politics, why it is used, and why it is at the end of the day it is ultimately doomed to fail.
You're welcome as can be. MICKEYMOUSE.
There is a book called Asymmetrical Politics, and it explains why it is that Republican-leaning candidates or Republican candidates have to actually campaign on their actual honest-to-God ideology, where liberal candidates or Democratic Party candidates or hell, even the socialist types, they've got to pander to several different identity groups or several different minorities. And the objective here is to create a bunch of minorities and make them an actual majority to overthrow the majority. So basically what they do is they play on the victim status of any type of group that feels like they have been oppressed. If you guys are kind of picking up on my gist here. What is up, guys? John Claymore here. Now, guys, this video right here is a bit of an update on an issue that I talked about last summer, where I kind of reminded a certain community that you don't want to piss off another community. Of course, that community I was warning was the LGBTQ community, pissing off the Islamic community. Now, guys, this issue came up in Dearborn, Michigan last year. Now, this is what happened. Just kind of give you guys a bit of a rehash of what actually happened. Don't worry, I'll still leave the video in the description box for you guys. And I'm showing you guys some highlights here. So basically what happened was that the school curriculum decided to adopt a woke LGBTQ curriculum. That curriculum, which by the way featured books such as This Book is Gay and Gender Queer, was being distributed out and being, let's just say that the Islamic children were being exposed to this. Now, in Dearborn, Michigan, Muslims make up a pretty good chunk of that community. And Muslims are not exactly down with the gay, okay? Now, I'm trying to make this video as friendly as I can for the algorithm, okay? So please bear with me while I try to temper my language a little bit. The truth is this right here. The Islamic community is not okay with gay marriage. They never have been. I even wonder why it is that they've even allowed someone like, say, Rashida Tlaib or Ilhan Omar to stay in office, seeing how they're very, very much on the left-wing fringe. And they are actually totally accepting of the curriculum that's going on. However, the Muslims that live in Dearborn, whom, by the way, vote 70% Democrat, are not in favor of this. Now, guys, I've been talking about the fracturing of the left for a very long time, and we're actually seeing it. And I'll be explaining that in the identity politics portion of this video, and there'll even be a bigger project at a later date talking about identity politics. So basically, what's going on here is that the LGBTQ community, they have been pioneering a bill. They've been behind the bill, the legislation that's about to be passed in the state of Michigan. It is a civil rights bill that is primarily designed for the LGBTQ community. One of the provisions in that bill is that the woke curriculum goes forward. Well, as I've already explained to you, the Muslims in that area were not okay with the curriculum because Muslims are not okay with gay marriage. Muslims are not okay with homosexuality in general. I have had to tell anybody that is LGBTQ, that is liberal, look, dude, you talk about the United States being oppressive, but if you don't believe me, then why don't you go to the Middle East and ask them exactly if your lifestyle is okay? I'm pretty sure you'll get let's just say you'll get a pretty loud answer. But I advise you go do that because I know liberals are stupid and they'll do this crazy shit anyways without any thought of what could possibly happen. But hey, look, have at it. Go right ahead and do it. Don't take my word for it. But the thing is this right here. This community, the Muslim community, is not okay with this. They're not okay with this at all. So right now, they're trying to get a provision put inside this bill that basically says, look, you're not going to impede on us. You're not going to impede on our way of life. You're not going to impede on our religion. Because, as I mentioned before, liberals don't really think about this sort of thing. They're not exactly considerate, and they just kind of sort of like flaunt everything out there. I think I better keep my mouth shut before I get myself in trouble. Fact of the matter is, I'm pretty sure you guys know where I'm going with this. Muslims, they want them to kind of sort of keep that crap in check, keep the whole wokeness stuff in check, and do not bring this wokeness stuff around the kids. So, it makes me wonder what's about to happen. You see, a lot of people don't seem to realize this, but well, that clip that I opened this video up with, let's just go ahead and play it again.
This Book is Gay And all boys aren't blue. They're currently under review.
Nothing to do with Thursday's continuation of that meeting, which ended abruptly when things started to unravel.
The people who really lose in this scenario aren't the adults who are all yelling at each other. It is the kids.
This teen, who identifies as queer and transgender, shouted to be heard as adults booed.
Had I been aware of the books and resources available to students in the libraries, I have no doubt I would have had an easier time accepting myself and relating
Please
to others.
allow the speaker to speak.
Those against the books that focus on LGBTQ issues and experiences say it was about the explicit nature.
I'm a 43-year-old man and I'm embarrassed to say this stuff. And yet you say it's okay for this to be in the hands of my children. Shame on you.
I'm not against the gay. I'm not against anything. I'm against the books.
Others don't see it that way at all.
So let's stop pretending this is about protecting children from books. We all know this is about erasing our LGBTQ students and staff. It was literally written on signs people brought to the meeting on Monday.
Others argue parents concerned about the book should opt their child out.
Parents should absolutely have an active role in their child's reading and education, but no parent should be able to tell another parent what their child is allowed or not to read.
Those who believe the books belong say other parents should have no say over what their children read.
And I, for one, won't give up my rights as a father to anyone whose parenting skills are so fragile their teenagers can be undone by...
Monday's Dearborn School Board meeting turned into pandemonium as people shouted down speakers and board members. It got packed to the point the fire marshal closed it down, and the police chief himself showed up to calm everybody down. What's riled up so many? Arguments over 6 books in the school district's collection of 500,000.
And we're not going to let them put the books on the shelf. I don't care what administration said the book's supposed to be on the shelf. These are books that should not be on the shelf.
And while not all deal with LGBTQ subject matter, it's those titles that really got people outraged. What else had them furious? The decision to shut down the meeting. The Dearborn School's communications director tells us tonight everybody who wants to talk will get their chance tomorrow, starting with those who filled out a blue card to speak on Monday.
Those who filled out a blue card at Monday's meeting will be given the opportunity to come to the podium and share their thoughts. They will have 3 minutes, which is the standard procedure. It's nothing new. It's been in place for years.
There is a book called Asymmetrical Politics, and it explains why it is that Republican-leaning candidates or Republican candidates have to actually campaign on their actual honest-to-God ideology, where liberal candidates or Democratic Party candidates or, hell, even the socialist types, they've got to pander to several different identity groups or several different minorities. And the objective here is to create a bunch of minorities and make them an actual majority to overthrow the majority. So basically what they do is they play on the victim status of any type of group that feels like they have been oppressed. If you guys are kind of picking up on my gist here. The Democratic Party at large, the left itself, they rely on a coalition of single-issue voters. For example, Muslims, they obviously want to live their lifestyle. They obviously don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be judged. The exact same way Christians don't want to be judged. Exact same way Christians don't like to be called stupid and bigoted and crap like that. They're like we always seem to get. Even though most of us, for the time being, have kind of accepted the fact that we're probably going to be the first group to get persecuted in the end times. The thing is this right here, we kind of sort of like learn to kind of accept it and try to fight back. The world of Islam, they're just now being exposed to it, and they're beginning to see exactly what it is that Christians are being exposed to. I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm just simply saying that there may be some empathy going on here. And the left, of course, what they do is that they prey upon single-issue voters. Islam, of course, they want to be left alone. The gays, the LGBTQ, not all gays, okay, I'm not saying all of them. I know somebody's going to come in here and scream, bigot, 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 bigot. But the LGBTQ community, they care about things mostly like gay marriage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So obviously, the Democratic Party panders to them. They also pander to the trans community with stuff like abortions for trans, free abortions for trans, even though men can't have babies. They do stuff like that there. They pander that ideology. The whole idea is to try to get a group of people who believe that they are politically oppressed in some way to try to create somewhat of a majority. Now, if you actually look at all the minorities and put them all together, they still would not be the majority, okay? But the idea is to try to make it look like it's a majority so that way it can intimidate the actual majority into kind of like bending down and doing what the hell these people want them to do. Fact of the matter is, this is what they do. However, if something fractures in there, or if a certain group says, no, we're not going to go along with this, what ends up happening is that the entire house itself, because it's built on a house of lies, it's built on a house of cards, it eventually falls apart. So you have a lot of people wondering right now if the left is actually fracturing. Now, I've been saying for a while that it would not happen overnight, but I have been saying that the loony left would eventually fracture and eventually fall apart, eventually crater, and eventually just kind of like cave in or fizzle out or wherever the hell it just may do. At the end of the day, the loony left just ends up eating itself. And like I said, there will be a project on this at a later date. But let me give you an example of what I mean by single issue voters. And of course, not just single issue voters, I mean the loony left kind of falling apart. Now, like I said, I know this video is kind of gone away from what the hell is going on here, but I think I need to explain this because it kind of helps explain what eventually happens to the left in general. Our friend Greta Thunberg, you guys remember her. Remember that protest she did? And then we found out later on that protest that she claimed she got arrested for, in which they see her in handcuffs. Yeah, that entire thing turned out to be a hoax. Well, now she's upset. Why is she upset? Well, she's out there protesting. She's protesting wind energy. She's out there protesting one of the things that, quite frankly, you think she'd be in favor of. You know, the green energy people, they love wind and solar and all that green stuff. Well, she's actually protesting wind. Yeah, she's protesting wind. You see, the people who put these windmills up, these people who put these wind energy areas up, they're building this on indigenous people's lands. So now she is protesting on behalf of the people in that area that are classified as indigenous or endangered or whatever word you want to use. That's how loony these people are. They ultimately, at the end of the day, end up eating themselves. I think about that episode of The Simpsons that they did a while back where Homer, it was a Treehouse of Horror episode where Homer accidentally, I think, cut his finger off and then he decided to cook it and eat it. Next thing you know, he's eating his hand. Then he's eating the fat off his belly. Then he's eating a leg. Then he's eating a foot. Then he's eventually left with nothing but a head. And he's getting cooked by a Guy Fieri-looking dude. I can't remember what the guy's name was. It may have been another one of those celebrity chefs. Fact of the matter is that the left always ends up eating itself, and you guys are kind of seeing this in Dearborn, Michigan. Dearborn, Michigan Muslims vote 70% Democrat. They're not liking another constituency that votes right around 90% Democrat coming in here and impeding on the Muslims' way of life. That right there being introducing this woke nonsense like this book is gay, genderqueer, and their ideology in on their kids. They're not liking this. It's not going to end very, very well. And obviously, Muslims are beginning to wake up and see exactly what it is that Christians are going through. So who the hell would have thunk it that Christians and Muslims would actually be working together? Guys, John Claymore here. If you like the content, hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sign up in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.
Mickey Mouse, forever let us hold our back.